In 2001, Australia had nearly 900 internet service providers, or ISPs. Today, that number has dropped to less than 500, with nearly 300 of those sharing just 1% of the market. With the NBN releasing new details about its connection model, there are concerns that small ISPs will be priced out of the market and forced to close, reducing competition in the sector. Nigel Freitas spoke to David Hooton, CEO of Platform Networks, on what the new NBN model means for ISPs.
So effectively what's happening in the Australian marketplace is the Australian government's actually going out and becoming the primary infrastructure owner of telecommunication services, or last mile telecommunication services in Australia. That model is obviously a significant change in infrastructure inside Australia's network, but what it does mean is ultimately it's going to result in a much better last mile service to every customer, because obviously the technology that's being used is changing. Now, the change as far as the industry is concerned, there has always been a resale or an infrastructure owner and somebody who's purchasing those services from the infrastructure owner. There's also always been a very healthy resale market inside the Australian telco industry. So really the major thing that's actually happening is the primary infrastructure owner is shifting from being Telstra to being the Australian government. So from my perspective, I don't really see an enormous amount of change happening, but what will happen is there will be significant changes as far as Telstra and the primary infrastructure owners of the last mile stuff are concerned.
There have been some concerns raised that the NBN will adversely impact smaller ISPs. What's your view on what's going to happen to those smaller players as a result of this new model?
Sure. A lot of those smaller providers have already had a resale or a wholesale aggregator type relationship with other providers or with ourselves up until now. Now, some of those providers have purchased an aggregated solution from Telstra, so they may have to build their own national network. They'll have 7 or 8 points of interconnect with Telstra, and they would still provide a broadband service. The NBN method of interconnect requires 121 points of interconnect, which is the real point of contention. So that winds up with somebody requiring 121 locations inside Australia in order to continue to provide a full national service, which is where we come in and we provide that kind of a solution as a wholesale aggregator.
The CEO of IONET, Simon Hackett, has come out and said that the fees for connecting to the NBN for those smaller ISPs, he's called that insane. Do you share his view?
I'm not all that interested in the politics of it, but yes, the costs are quite large. What winds up happening is you find that you do need a certain number of services in order to remain viable while being directly connected to NBN Co, but that's where a wholesale aggregator comes into the play.
So today I'm a small ISP with 7 to 8 connections. In the future, I need to get to 120 plus connections. How much money are these small ISPs going to have to spend if they want to get to that?
We're talking somewhere in the vicinity of $35 to $40 million worth of capital expenditure plus a fairly significant operational expenditure.
So most of these small players wouldn't be able to afford that spend, and they would have to go through aggregators such as yourself.
Correct. So again, that would have probably always existed if they wanted to be in every telephone exchange in the country. So the point of interconnect is changing, but in reality, what the role of an aggregator is not changing that much.
So with these small providers, they don't really have a choice of connecting directly to the NBN. They have to go through an aggregator. What will that mean for their prices?
The numbers that I've done so far actually show that the wholesale price of an ADSL two-tail versus the wholesale price of a base or even an equivalent NBN service aren't that much different. What is required, however, to support that price is a slightly larger scale.
And how do you think these smaller players will react to this new model? Will they all try and go through an aggregator such as yourself, or will we start to see some more consolidation in the industry?
I think there's going to be a natural consolidation. That happens in any industry as time goes by. There's going to be businesses which thrive and businesses which don't. But I believe that businesses which have a solid business case going forwards can continue to still exist in the market today as well as in the market in the future.
And do you think it's good for competition that these smaller players won't be able to connect directly to the NBN?
Look, it's clearly not a great thing for competition that it's going to make things more difficult for small players. But again, the role of our business is to try and provide a safe harbour for that sort of a player, and to give them the opportunity to continue trading and to continue to remain relevant within that kind of marketplace.
And when you talk about safe harbour, what kind of services would platform networks provide for these smaller ISPs?
So first and foremost, we're a wholesale-only provider. We have no retail arm, we're not vertically integrated, and we will never compete with our customers. Secondly, we provide all of the standard voice, data, international services, internet services themselves, ADSL services, as well as obviously the NBN. Now, providing a full, whole of business sort of solution allows our customers to continue to remain relevant in the marketplace and to continue to supply their services that they've always supplied their customers with.
Today we have about 500 ISPs. With the NBN coming along and the consolidation that you described, what's your prediction for what the ISP landscape will look like in 2020 or 2030?
I think the lines are going to blur as far as what consists of an ISP or of a service provider. I think that there are going to always be the large telcos and service providers that we know today, but I think there are going to be organisations which may provide other value-added services on top of the NBN, which are ultimately going to make them become successful as well. So that may be a small business IT service provider specially, so somebody who goes and provides SME type services out to actual small medium businesses, and those services may not look like what you and I would traditionally consider to be a telco service. It could be somebody who hosts applications and they also provide internet service and voice. It could be somebody who does an awful lot of different things. It could be telepresence, and those providers are ultimately going to wind up having their own niche product, which is very important to their end user. I think the end user is going to have a lot less prescribed to them about what actually creates an NBN service.